I've been one of the few people who's been saying, I think the way that people are looking at the United States and North Korea is wrong. I think that what needs to happen is you need to analyze the overall relationship between Donald Trump and Kim Jong Un. And I think there's an element, like every president has strengths and flaws. I think that Donald Trump's strength is he's supremely confident, and I think a lot of things he's right about in a general sense. For instance, I think he's right that corporate tax rates were too high. I think that was the right decision. I think he's right about the crazy political correctness era of America. I think he's right about that. I think sometimes his implementation is not as accurate as you would hope, and that Twitter is oftentimes his worst enemy because it allows you a window directly into every thought that he is having. I've said before, can you imagine if we'd seen Richard Nixon or Abraham Lincoln or George Washington or anybody who is a president giving you their unfiltered thoughts in real time on Twitter? I think what Trump is doing is not traditional, but I think the way that he is venting is very traditional. And what I mean by that is if you read history and you get inside of all these meetings that take place in the White House, you regularly see every president losing his mind over decisions that people have made in his administration, over judges, over subordinates, over the media and the way they treat him. The way Trump reacts, while people want to claim is abnormal, it's not abnormal. He's just doing it in public. So whereas in the past, Bill Clinton would have raged and lost his temper sometimes at the way that he believed the media treated him, he didn't grab his phone and decide to send that window into his soul out to the entire world. Trump is kind of unvarnished in the way that he shares his opinions on a regular basis. And so what I think is interesting about this is the way that typical strongman leaders make decisions is not based on larger societal trends or your analysis of geopolitical trends and traditions. It's based on interpersonal relationships. Most of the world has these autocratic strongman rulers who are used to power, and the only language they really speak is power. And I think there is an argument to be made that in doing as much construction as he has over the years, Donald Trump has gotten used to dealing with all these different kind of feudal dictators in order to make things happen. So if you're going to build a building in New York City, can you imagine all the red tape that has to take place? Trump, I think, has gotten used to saying, who's the guy who makes the decision? Get me on the phone with him. Let's get a deal done. We're not going to deal with all this bureaucratic BS, okay? And so I think that it's possible that Trump is making a brilliant strategic ploy here in going straight to Kim Jong Un. And I think if you look at everything that Trump is saying right now, it's about flattery. He went out and said that he thought Kim Jong Un was a great leader, that very few people, maybe 1 in 10,000, could take over a leadership position like he did at the age of 26 and manage to rule a country. Trump, I think, sees in Kim Jong Un a younger version of himself. Now, that may sound crazy, but I think that's Donald Trump's game plan to try to get Kim Jong Un to do things that are beneficial for his country. And I think what you're seeing happen is Donald Trump is trying to seduce Kim Jong Un with the idea that the way to international prosperity is by opening up his country to markets and development and condos and buildings and everything else, and not by trying to make the decision to get nuclear weapons and isolate his hermetic kingdom. So, in many respects, when you strip away all the language and all the artifice and all your personal opinions for what Donald Trump is doing, ultimately this is diplomacy predicated on the idea that he can sell directly to Kim Jong Un the idea to open up your kingdom. As he's saying, basically, hey, you're directly between China and South Korea. You've got incredibly valuable real estate. You've got beautiful beaches. Why don't you allow the economic commerce of your country to be unlocked? And if he does so, that he's then going to burnish Kim Jong Un as a great leader in his country, and that the people in his republic will benefit in the process. So, while there's lots of people out there who have a living, or making a living based on analyzing North Korea and based on analyzing all the politics and everything else, what you really have to understand is Trump is cutting through all the bureaucracy and going direct to Kim Jong Un and trying to make this work based on the strength of personal relationships. Trump is a guy who believes in personal relationships. You're either on his team or you're not on his team. And if you're on his team, he believes that you and he can succeed. So I think what he's doing is effectively trying to argue, hey, Kim Jong Un, go out and look at what capitalism can offer to the world. And I thought this was significant. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Couple of things. One, Trump showed off his Cadillac, I think it was, like the car that he has for Kim Jong Un. Remember, there's hardly any airplanes that even work in North Korea. And we've got this car that Donald Trump is riding in that Kim Jong Un is blown away by. Second, did you notice that Kim Jong Un went out and took a tour of Singapore? The Singapore situation in general, the beast, his limo, yes. But getting Kim Jong Un out of North Korea and having him go around and see all the dynamic things that other countries have, it's impossible to go out in a major metropolitan area. It's impossible for some autocratic ruler to not come to New York City and be blown away by what happens when commerce is allowed to function and the rule of law governs. And I think if you can get the people of North Korea out of North Korea and able to see the world as a whole, that is Donald Trump's plan, that he is trying to seduce Kim Jong Un with the promise of great wealth, riches, development, and acclaim for generations that would follow if North Korea was able to if their leader was able to bring a better lifestyle to his people. So in that respect, I really like what Kim Jong Un is starting and being able to accomplish here. I think it is mind-blowing. And if I were Trump on top of this, what I would try to do is he needs to get Kim Jong Un to visit America, all right? He needs to get Kim Jong Un to visit America, and he needs to let him tour the entire country and force the North Korean media to follow Kim Jong Un as he covers the country. And then it's impossible from that point forward to argue that the United States is filled with despotic people who want to destroy the country of North Korea. What I would do is I would bring Kim Jong Un over during the NBA. This guy's a big NBA fan. I would take him to all the NBA games. I would try to get as many NBA players to meet Kim Jong Un as possible. I would flatter the hell out of him. I would seduce him with the greatness of America. Let me tell you this. The number one best option we have to combat terrorism. Do you know what it is? Most people who come to America end up loving it. You may come to America with an idea of what America is and hate it. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to immigrate here, or you're fortunate enough to get into this country, just about everybody from another country comes here and they say, my God, this place is amazing. You take anybody from Africa, anybody from a small place, a small country in Asia, anywhere where there is not a strong standard of living, and you walk them into a Best Buy in America, and you say, look at everything you can buy if you have a minimum wage job in America. Look at all of our riches. It's a great stat. Did you know people who are in the bottom 5% of American life right now in terms of wealth would be the 20% most wealthy in India right now? Think about that for a minute. Our 5% poorest people in America would be in the top 20% most wealthy in India if they were living in India right now. And if you think about it, it makes sense. Poor people in America have what? Typically they have shelter. A lot of times, even in public housing, you have a flat screen television and cable. You probably have your own phone. Nobody is going hungry. Like, what we consider to be poor, the rest of the world would consider to be rich. And so if you get Kim Jong Un over here to America and you let him do a national tour, almost like Tocqueville, and you allow Donald Trump to take him to all the great places, take him to Vegas, show him what gambling in North Korea could do. Statistically, Asian people love to gamble. Look at what happened with Macau. Take him to Washington, D.C. to go to a Washington Wizards game. Travel to wherever LeBron is, maybe down in Houston, maybe out in L.A. Let Kim Jong Un actually experience American life, and I think he would fall in love with it. I think that he would fall in love with it. So I love what Donald Trump is doing. He's trying to seduce Kim Jong Un through personal diplomacy. Will it work? I don't know. But this is phenomenal. And this is, I think, take him to Spearmint Rhino, take him to the Wynn, take him around to all the best venues in American life, and say, this is what capitalism is. If you want this, take him to Disney World, take him to Disneyland, have him bring his family over. That, to me, is how you seduce someone who's not familiar with what American capitalism can represent. To me, I'm very optimistic, cautiously so, but very optimistic, that Donald Trump has actually embarked on the right way to make the world safer and open up North Korea and end the isolation of that kingdom. We will see what happens. I love all of you. My name is Clay Travis. This is Outkick the show. If you enjoy the show, share it with your friends. I love all of you. Yes, good point on Kim Jong Un. He went to school in Switzerland, so he's aware outside of what the West is like. I think he likes movies. I think he likes entertainment. Make him aware of how great America is. Make America great again, as our president has said. Make North Korea great for the first time by showing him how great America is.